Oopsie doodle. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast. Apologies up front. We had some technical issues that had problems with the sound on Facebook and took out the first little bit of the show here, but it was just the introduction, so I'll tell you real quick. If you want to subscribe, go to anchor.fm/O The Anthem. O The Anthem on all the major social networks. Go to Facebook for the usual live stream of the podcast and YouTube for the video version of the podcast. We were right in the beginning of sports ball. We just launched a show, and we were talking about our fantasy draft. Cue the sports ball music.
So where was I? It was very sad. One sad moment. Two sad moments. Sad moment number one. Adam Thielen, for the first time in 3 seasons, will not be on my team.
Yeah.
John, go fuck yourself.
I just kept making jokes about it's second round. I guess it's time for Rob to take Adam Thielen.
So you asked me earlier about a plan. I did have him planned for third or fourth round, depending on how the QB situation was going to shake out. And then John reached down from the second pick in the third round and got him. I'm like, okay, all right, well, sure. The other thing that didn't work out was Le'Veon Bell sat on my bench all season long last year. I am one of the owners who he jokingly said in a press conference in New York, sorry about last year, but all you got to do is just stick with me, and I'm going to prove it to you this year. And I was like, you know what? I bet he will. I'm going to get him. And then somebody took him in the first round, fifth or sixth. Fifth or sixth.
It's always weird when you are planning around. I listen to a lot of ESPN fantasy podcasts, ESPN Fantasy Focus in particular, if you guys are looking for a good fantasy football podcast.
There we go, yeah.
But they go off of ESPN rankings, and ESPN rankings are way different than Yahoo rankings. So the whole time I've been listening to them, they've been saying things Nick Chubb is a great value in the second round. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Second round, I can pick up Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I'll be good to go. And then all of a sudden, Nick Chubb's a first round pick in Yahoo.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, damn it, my whole plan.
He's ranked sixth. And I'm like, oh, well. And all the dumb people. You all right there?
Yeah, I just got logged out for a second. So.
Okay. All right.
Camera's looking for me, but the microphone was in my way. So.
I got you. Yeah. It's you never know how it's going to go. And no matter how many mock drafts you do, when you're playing with a league that has at least 4 people who don't really follow football, it's kind of a wild card. You never know what's going to happen.
You get Justin Tucker taken in the 5th round.
And 2 defenses. It's just crazy. You never know what to expect. But I think it went well. According to Yahoo, you and I were in the middle of the pack.
I was last. I was dead last in the draft rating. Yeah.
Ooh. That means Rachel did better than you.
Yeah, she did. But it's okay. It's not. We don't win this game in the draft ratings. We do it on the field.
Now,
the digital field of battle.
The website that I did my research from, and by that I mean the 20 minutes last night that I was like, let's figure out who we're going to be drafting, ranked me number 1, and you guys, middle of the pack.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think that there's a little bit of prejudice based on if you were to always take the best player available, I just think Yahoo boosts you up as a draft score. I think LaShawn McCoy probably really messed up my draft score.
Well, and I think it's about when you take players. So I mean, one of the strategies I had going in, and again, I completely understand if people don't want to listen to my fantasy football advice anymore, especially seeing as last year I was just the Le'Veon Bell thing is going to work itself out. Yeah. He's going to come back. He's going to be 100%. You're going to have him all season long. He's going to be trying to prove himself for that contract.
Yeah.
All those things I said clearly did not work out. But this year, part of my plan was I don't want to draft one of the quarter. I don't want to spend the pick on Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to draft a quarterback that early. But I don't want to be left with one of the schlubs. So my
one of the schlubs, one of the 32 best athletes in the country.
Well, yeah, but I mean not one of the, there's 20 really good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I didn't want to end up with one of the last 10.
Yeah,
I didn't want to have a Tannehill or a
Flacco.
Yeah, something like that. But I wanted Lamar Jackson because I just feel there was a world where I could imagine he was the best player in fantasy football at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's
it's hard.
Patrick Mahomes.
It's hard when you get to the 5th round on where you start saying to yourself well, if all the things break right, then, I'm looking for players with upside at a certain point.
Yeah.
So I reach on Lamar just so I make sure I have him because at some point a Ravens fan is just going to be I'll take Lamar. He's on the board.
Like Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't want that to happen to me, so I took him early. And I'm sure Yahoo like penalized me for taking him like a round too early. But it's like one of those things like you got to go with your gut. You can't just like you got to worry about whether or not he's going to be here the next time you pick, and that's 20 picks from now. So like
I still maintain that having first or second pick or 11th or 12th pick is the way to go, because when you're in that tight situation where you're like, I got 2 guys I want. Is he going to be around? I picked 8th. There's a lot of picks in between both times I pick. Whereas when you're 11, 12, or 1 and 2, you're just like, all right, I'm going to get him, and then 2 rounds later, I'm going to get him.
Right.
It's right back to back. So it's a lot easier. I guess we'll see how it shakes out over the long term. We had the trophy here on the West Coast for
when we moved out.
Yeah, with us when we came. And it's been back on the East Coast for the last 2 seasons
now.
Yeah. So here we go. Trying to bring it back to the West. So if you are fans, we'll be sure to update you as we go along.
Especially when it's like, like The Anthem Bowl week, where it's me versus you and stuff like that. But I mean, like, people generally speaking don't like to hear like about who you have on your fantasy team and stuff like that. But I mean, like, so we're not gonna obviously fill. The draft is sort of like this big momentous moment,
right? But when Rachel beats you with her haphazardly thrown together team, I'm going to bring it up on the podcast. When I scored double digits above the lowest person, I'm gonna talk about that.
I'm just gonna love like what's one of the picks we were like making fun of her for. Like in jest, obviously.
Oh, there was so many of them. I just love that you talked her out of several players, and then by the time the minute 30 ran, she selected the Jameis. She came back to the first one that you selected, you recommended. So
no, but I mean, like, I think it would be really funny if just like Jameis ends up being the best quarterback of the year.
Oh yeah,
like Bruce Arians just lights a special flame under him or something like that, and he becomes like the best player in fantasy football. And like Rachel feels like she got a real steal, and I'm just like, God damn it, Lamar's injured in week 2, and I'm just like, fuck this thing.
Funnier situation. Yes, he has the year of his life, and no one reminds her to put him on the starting spot. Because if this year
starting Carson Wentz won a Super Bowl, I can't.
If this year's like any other, by the time we hit week 10 or 11, there'll be injuries, there'll be bye weeks, and just people will stop trading. And it'll just be like, no one remind Maggie to change her lineup. Right now she's got 5 slots empty. It's going to be great. And losing the IDP. I know you guys hate the IDP, but for me, it's made a difference. I think twice now I've won a game that's been really close. And I've had, like a linebacker show up on Monday night and give me 2 points.
I guess my problem with the IDP is it's too much to focus on. And defensive stats are so weird and unusual to be. I mean, like, I would understand if you had a player like Ed Reed who would be available as like an IDP player, because you're just like, all right, on any given week, he could have a touchdown return, like, interception.
Or a kick return. I mean, he can score a lot.
Whatever. There's tons of different options for him. I just feel like the defense works better for that sort of thing, because then you can say like, the Ravens are going up against the Dolphins, and Tannehill or not Tannehill, Fitzpatrick isn't really great. He's probably going to throw 3 picks away, maybe return 1. That's a great place to be, because you get to choose like the field essentially, as opposed to just one specific player.
So what you're saying is it takes more skill to choose a player, and you don't want to do that.
No, I just think that the random nature, I mean, because it's 12 teams, so the max number of defensive players we're going to have is like 12 or 15 maybe, if somebody decides to take backups on them. But I mean, like,
which somebody might have.
But like the 12 best defensive players, like all of them are pretty much equal. It's just a matter of like who happens to have an unusual week. And it's nice that, like, I get you. I've been on one of those weeks where I've been playing somebody, and it's been, like, equal all the way through. And then all of a sudden, my defensive player had, like, a fumble return for a touchdown, and that made the difference in the week.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's just sort of, like, random, like.
I also like even number of rounds during the draft. I don't like that the person who chose first also chooses first in the very last round. And it's like, I know it doesn't really matter, but it's like now we're getting down to how much research did you really do versus maybe guessing. And like, again, so LaShawn McCoy is 253. I went down for him in round 13 or whatever it was. But then after that, I skipped down 10 positions to choose. No, I didn't, because I got my kicker the last round, but 14. I went down 10 positions and then just like selected somebody who I thought was going to be a sleeper. I had like one more round of like, how much research did you do? How ready are you for this? And that's what makes a difference. I mean, the IDP can make the difference too, because you know what? When, I don't know, when Rachel or Chelsea is choosing someone who retired yesterday. That is what I want. I want more opportunity for that.
You know what I would really like is for somebody to figure out the way to do like a practice squad for fantasy. Because right now in the NFL rosters, there's a certain number of players that could be designated for the practice squad. And they're not free agents, but you can sign them off another team.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like, say there's, like, some left tackle on New Orleans' practice squad that the Ravens want because, you know, somebody got injured or something like that. Then they can basically sign them off the practice squad of another team. They just have to send, you know, $700,000 to the Saints or whatever.
Yeah.
I would like there to be some sort of method of, like, okay, in addition to the picks that you already have, we also have 3 practice squad slots. And you can bring somebody up off your practice squad, or somebody else could, like, essentially trade for one of those people.
Right, yeah.
But it's, like, an extra person on your bench. But
why not you just do 3 extra bench spots?
No, because then it adds the intrigue of, like, say I want one of your guys.
Okay.
I can make you can pick anyone off my practice squad if I want to try and pick one of your guys off.
Okay.
But if one of your guys on your practice squad has, like, a big week, and everyone's trying to pick him off, you can either move him to your roster or you can give him up, you know?
Okay.
So it, like, gives a little bit of flexibility on some, like, some of those sleepers that, like, you know, like, nobody was taking Kareem Hunt because even though he's a great running back, he's not going to be back until, like, week 8.
Yeah.
So there's no point in having him sit on your bench, like, you know, loafing for 8 weeks, you know? But if you had him on your practice squad roster and it's week 6 and somebody has some extra space on their roster and they want to try and take him from you, then you have to make the decision. Is he moving up to the roster? Is he sitting on the bench and getting 0 points? Or is he like, am I going to give him up for somebody on somebody else's practice squad and just make a clean swap? You know,
I could have left Le'Veon on the practice squad, and then when somebody else has more faith than I do that he's coming back in week 5 or 6, made a big move to get him off the practice squad. Yeah, sure. Although I did get trade offers even as I think as late as like week 5, and I was just like, no, you're crazy. He's coming back. He's coming back.
He'll be here any day.
I will say that the IR is interesting because I have 3 players I think now who are not starting week 1.
Yeah,
but it's like, all right, are they back before the bye?
I wish there was just a better way to do like a DL in football.
Yeah,
because it used to be injured reserve or nothing, and then they started doing the injured reserve designated to return, which means that, like, you know, somebody got hurt and they were going to be out for a while, but not the whole season. You could basically block off the first 8 weeks, and they could come back in week 9. But then, you know, it's just like a whole, like, it would be great if there was just like a 2-game DL that you could put a player on, you know?
I mean, and for fantasy too, just because there's a lot of guys who, one of the guys I have is marked as ready to go, and then I saw a story after the draft that was like, questions about whether or not he's ready to return. I'm like, fucking super. All right. Well, at least he's there, so that's nice. We'll see.
I always hate after the draft when, like, I remember this happened to me with David Dahl in baseball once. He's a Rockies outfielder. He had a really great season the year before. And, like, in spring training, he had some, like, nagging little, like, you know, like, oh, he's got an ankle injury, and he might miss a week or 2 up front, but it looks like he's ready to play. And I'm just like, you know what? He's a great player. I'm getting him late. I feel like this is a steal. I'm going to draft him. And then I drafted him, and then he didn't play for, like, the entire season because, like, that ankle injury turned into, like, a thigh injury and then turned into a hip injury, and he never, like, got up from the minors to the majors. And I'm just like, oh, this guy's killing me. Like,
I could cut him, but they just said it was a week. They said he's going to be back in a week, so I got to...
This thigh injury is only going to be another week, and then... He's ready to called up. He's like, the next game he's going to get called up, and then all of a sudden he has back surgery, and you're just like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do here?
Just keep on keeping on as best we can. But yeah, so I think the only team that is going to do better than my fantasy team is the Baltimore Ravens. I think that they're...
I don't know. We live in this world always where I don't want to be the one who says this team looks really good and I think we can make the playoffs and win.
Yeah.
Because whenever I do, horrible things happen. And whenever I say this team is horrible and it's not going to work out, then
it goes really well.
It goes really well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just say horrible things because I want them to go well. But I mean, this team is really interesting. I think that there's a lot of questions about what they're actually going to do because they haven't been doing it throughout the preseason. They haven't been working on the new offense that they said is going to, like, revolutionize how running is done in the NFL.
Ooh, yeah.
So, you know, it'll be really interesting to see what this Ravens team looks like after week 1.
Yeah.
Especially with an easy Miami opponent that will hopefully be able to show the extent of what the Ravens are possible with.
And hopefully they have a game in Miami, and it's not like a last minute like, oh, we're gonna play in Baltimore with Miami as the home team.
Yeah.
Based on the weather.
Or just some weird like we're gonna play in Carolina because something's wrong with the field in Miami. You know, it's like rained out or something like that.
Well, yeah, it's just like any other sport in Baltimore. Hopeful optimism, where we're just like, they're looking all right. It could be good, also could be horrible. We'll see. We'll see how things shake out in the long run. But
I mean, honestly, I feel like it's a 3-team division, and I think that the Browns and Steelers and the Ravens are all good teams that could make the playoffs, and we're all going to be beating up on each other a lot.
Well, luckily, there's only 4 teams in the division, so.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, this could be one of those years where it's like the winner of the division is 9-7 because we just all split each other in matchups between the Browns and Steelers and the Ravens and stuff like that. It's not like have you looked at where you think what the playoff teams will be this year?
I haven't done a lot of looking at it. I looked at the AFC North more than I have everywhere else, and I had the same thought you did. And my concern is, if that's the case, the wild card becomes really hard because you have if you're at 9-7 and you win the division, there's likely going to be a team that's 2 teams that are better than that.
Yeah,
going into the playoffs in second place somewhere else, and it's hard because you really want. It's the rules almost seem to not favor the good divisions because if you are, we were talking about Carolina, I think last year, or the year before, where they had it was Tennessee had an abysmal record, but still made the playoffs just because they were the best team in that division.
In the worst division.
Yeah, so they got in, but then there's other teams that have competitive divisions and they're beating up on each other all the time, and they have a worse record, but they didn't make the playoffs because the worst record, not because their division is harder.
I think the thing about every year a team jumps out of nowhere and just does really well. And it's hard to tell which team that's going to be this year.
I think Arizona.
You think Arizona's going to jump from last place to playoffs, essentially?
Yes. I think Kyler has a lot more going on than people are thinking, which is why I took him in the 11th or 12th round, whatever it was.
I kind of like Tampa. I feel like they have something interesting going on.
I mean, Indy is a big question, too.
Yeah, I think Indy... So the way I sort of foresee it is I kind of want to go chalk with how the division ratings or how the division rankings went last year.
Okay.
In the AFC at the very least. I think the Patriots are going to win the East. Again, it's anyone's ball in the North, but I think that the Ravens have enough that they can win it.
Oh, another surprise though. How's Baker Mayfield going to do? Because you have 2.
See, but it's not just Baker; it's that defense. That defense is not as great as any of the other defenses, and it's a high-powered offense. But if you're just getting shootouts all the time.
Also, do you think the Patriots are as effective without Rob Gronkowski?
I think they'll figure out a way to make it work because he's been out a lot over the last couple years anyway with injuries and stuff like that. So I worry about. More than anything, I start thinking about the players who have been good for all these years, but might just get too old all of a sudden.
Tom Brady.
Well, I mean, Tom Brady's 42, so I mean, at some point he's just going to show up and he's just not going to be able to throw it anymore, and you're going to be like, oh god,
And if you're Bill Belichick, do you have the balls to be like, hey Tom, it's time. You should just head on into the locker room. Yeah.
Just leave.
I mean, I don't think you can. I don't think the franchise, they want him to decide when he's done. And even if everyone else kind of thinks he is, I think they'll let him show up and play.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine he would at least play out this season, even if it went horribly.
Like a nice helmet-to-helmet week 1. That would be amazing.
I mean, I think Denver might be interesting. They could jump up. I don't like how the Chargers' offseason is going. Not having Melvin Gordon is a big problem.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they lost Derwin James for the season, their star safety and stuff like that. It's just a lot of things seem to be compounding into a not so great LA Chargers season.
Good news. Ticket prices becoming way more reasonable.
The other thing, too, is I heard about their schedule, and it's they basically, all 8 home games that they play are against 8 of the best traveling fan bases in all of Like they get the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Raiders, which are all like all of these things are. It's like every single week is a road game for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Until they get into that stupid state.
I was gonna say the Chiefs and the Raiders especially. There may be more opponent fans in the stadium than your own fans.
There might be more people in Los Angeles who are Raiders fans than Chargers fans.
Yeah, yeah.
Just living within the city limits of Los Angeles. So it's hard to... I think Houston's got the South. I don't really feel confident about any of the other teams. I mean, I think it'll be I don't think the Texans run away with it, but I think they eventually win. I imagine our wild cards are probably going to be these surprise teams. Like maybe the Broncos would be a wild card, or like the Jets maybe on the periphery of being able to... I mean,
your faith in Joe Flacco is just unwavering.
It's not, it's not even Joe. It's just that I'd be curious to see what kind of offense they build around Joe for the season. Mostly because...
Well, they have to put an extra guy on the field, which is weird, because somebody has to pull the wheelchair back from under center
to get him into the pocket.
Yeah, it just gets him in the pocket.
That's the fullback. The fullback doesn't have to do
fair
anything.
enough. Yeah.
In modern NFL offenses, the fullback is sort of...
the wheelchair bearer.
I just feel like in the last couple of seasons with the Ravens, there was so much of like, Joe, try and throw into this triple coverage and get a flag.
Yeah.
And like that didn't work out for him. And I think that if there's an offense where it's just like, there's a lot of like those Emmanuel Sanders like 60-yard touchdown plays that happened in the last couple seasons with different Broncos quarterbacks. I think Joe's perfectly suited for just like heaving the ball down the field.
I'll say, but you know who they're starting the season without? Emmanuel Sanders.
I thought he was good. I thought he was ready.
I saw something last night that said do not draft him because the reports you've heard may not be accurate.
Oh.
He may not actually be playing week 1. So, so then I avoid him, but then I go on after the draft and see like, oh, yes, this player who we told you to look for. But turns out he might not be ready for week 1. So
the NFC is the other side where I'm just like, I feel like there's teams I know could win and teams I know can't win. But it's like I don't know which team is going to end up at the end of it all.
What are your thoughts on Detroit?
I don't think Detroit's going to be very good.
Really?
No.
Oh.
I think it's a 3-way race between Chicago and Minnesota and Green Bay.
Oh, all right.
And I honestly think Green Bay might surprise some people this season.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers isn't that good of a quarterback anymore. I heard you tell Rachel that earlier.
The South, I mean, like I said, I like the Bucks. I think the Panthers might be interesting. Drew Brees is another one of those quarterbacks who's like he's like 39 at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm just worried at what point do we start the season and we're watching the Saints and we just go like, oh, Drew Brees doesn't look like the same guy anymore.
And then he's a franchise quarterback that I think like Tom Brady, I don't think the team gets rid of him. That they just send him out there as long as he wants to go out there, even if he's not looking
It'll be
great.
like that last Peyton Manning season.
Yeah.
Where it's just clear he couldn't throw the ball more than like 20 yards.
But
with
he's
any
our guy.
kind of oomph.
He's
but
our
like
guy.
they
Put
just
him out
figured out an offense to work around it.
Yeah. But
I
Drew
mean,
Brees
Seattle,
is also
I think could be good.
5'9", so it's hard to build an offense around. Run it 90% of the time. That's our offense.
The West is, I think, the most interesting division for me. Between the Rams, the Seahawks, the Niners, and the Cardinals. I think that there's a chance that somebody sort of like surprises in that division. Though the Seahawks just got somebody. Didn't they just get Jadeveon Clowney or something like that?
Like I haven't heard that. So
I thought I just heard they traded for somebody pretty big. And I think that would be a good sign for them. Like just level up that defense again.
Well, I got 2 Seahawks on my team, so I would really like them to perform well. I'd like Russell Wilson to come out and be a quarterback. That'd be great.
Yeah. But there's a little NFL preview.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts specifically on the Ravens?
No, I mean it's again hopeful optimism. You're always hopeful. Is this the season that I go put a bet on the Ravens? I don't know.
Go to Vegas, put a little something on it.
I mean, I don't think the odds are good enough that you get a big payoff, and the odds of them actually winning aren't great. So I don't know that.
Well, let's see what happens here.
Wait, you can find odds on the internet?
I know,
That
weird,
seems
right?
odd. Gambling's illegal in this state.
Not anymore. Sports gambling.
Oh, that's right.
Raven. I'm just gonna put Ravens odds. I'm sure it'll show me all of the different options here. My bookie.
Top result. My bookie. Don't they know what a bookie is? Oh, this is disturbing.
All right, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Ravens. Wow. down here a bit.
Ooh.
Oh, no, wait, there it is.
I don't like how far you were scrolling.
3,000.
3,000 to 1?
So 30 to 1.
31. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, that means that a $100 bet.
With a $100 bet, it's 3,000.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. AFC Conference. 1,400 plus 1,400. So bet 100, get 1,400 back.
Yeah.
That's not bad. That seems better than the Super Bowl odds, to be honest.
But keep in mind, again, last year, the odds were horrible.
Ravens plus 350 for the division. That might be the one. See, I don't know if they make the playoffs per se, but I think that, oh my God, you can do it by potential matchup too. This is a wonderful site. So, hypothetically, let's go to the Ravens here.
And Corey had a trip planned home, but now, unfortunately,
Arizona Cardinals. All right, so if it's the Arizona Cardinals versus the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl, $100 bet gets you $69,500.
Jesus.
So, I mean, if you're feeling pretty confident about Kyler Murray, I mean, it's hard not to.
I'm not
at
that
least put
confident.
like a little tasting
so
bet,
wait,
like a $20
a $10 bet still pays off $6,900.
I mean, you could always parlay some of these things too. Like, you know, if you think that the Ravens are going to make the playoffs but not win the division, you could do like a Browns for the division but Ravens for the playoffs parlay.
As a good, upstanding, moral man, I don't bet. I don't place wagers because, as the Bible says, it's illegal. It's immoral.
Mutes the microphone. Where's that site again?
It's mybookie.com. I saw it. Yes, it's fine.
I'll save it for later.
But I think that the best and the worst thing is best thing, NFL football's back. That's always good. Worst thing is, oh crap, we got to get up at 9 a.m. again for the next 14 weeks. Yeah. So, although Ravens are playing in LA.
Yeah. On a Monday night.
On Monday night. So that's not horrible.
We were looking at tickets too,
a
little bit, and not so bad. Like $35 to get in and stuff like that. Like in the door price.
Yeah. And that's a Monday night game, which I'm also a little upset because I would love that to be a Sunday game where we would be able to get up at a reasonable hour because it's a 4 o'clock game. Instead, they put it on Monday where we'd be watching in the evening anyway. But, you know, sure.
Yeah, I'll do it. Fine.
Yeah.
One last thing on sports ball before we go.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it last week, but the MASN lawsuit has sort of reached a new
conclusion, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, there's still grounds for appeal, but for those who are not following the whole situation or don't know much about this, the Orioles, when the Nationals moved into town, were gifted a sports network by Major League Baseball.
Yes.
Later to be known as MASN, the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network.
Yes.
They would have two teams underneath contract for that network. It would be both the Orioles and the Nationals. And in exchange for the Nationals being the new team invading the media market of the Orioles, the splits were supposed to go dramatically towards the Orioles for the first 10 years of the two of them being in town.
It's actually
where it was higher in the first couple years and grades down until eventually after 10 years they're at 50-50 essentially.
So yes and no, because it's there's a difference between the profits for MASN and then the payouts that go to the team. Because Peter Angelos, owner of the Orioles, actually owns the network.
Yeah.
So the splits on profits are something like 79-29, and they will always stay that. But then there's something else about payouts for the team, like money that it's set aside for the team. So Yes and MASN and all of these little networks, by their contract with the MLB, have to set aside a certain amount of profits for the teams themselves. Now, Peter Angelos will personally benefit by profits for MASN.
Right.
The team itself, and arguably that would benefit the Orioles too, except for he's not going to give the Orioles any more money. Yeah. But then the money set aside for the teams is what got kind of split up and worked its way down. And one of the things that the Nationals have argued in the past is that, well, this money that Peter Angelos gets is essentially Orioles money. And I'm wondering if any Orioles attorney walked in and be like, do you know Peter Angelos? That's not Orioles money. That's Peter Angelos money.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, it's supposed to work its way down. The big controversy was that the Nationals thought that they were getting shortchanged, not in their share because MASN followed the split as it was contracted, but that the profits in general for MASN had been miscalculated.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's a smaller pot for both teams, and that perhaps Peter Angelos had said, we're going to do this intentionally and then backroad some of that money that he never would do otherwise to the team. So, we're going to shortchange both teams, but then I'll make it up for the Orioles out of a separate pot.
Yeah.
And it turns out they may have been doing that. So,
well, and then the other part was initially when they had done this, they had two. They basically the way they had collectively bargained these types of situations was that they would go to a
arbitration.
Arbitration with like a 3-panel arbitrators, and 2 of those arbitrators were lawyers for the Nationals, who weren't actively lawyers for the Nationals, but had recently done work for the Nationals.
Yeah,
and they had ruled in favor of the Nationals, and then Angelos was just like, this is a crock of shit.
Yeah.
And then appealed that to a court, and then the court said, yeah, you can't have it biased like this.
Yeah.
And then that kept getting appealed back and forth until eventually they're just like, listen, this is not going to stand. This does not stand in any sort of way. You have to kick it back to the original arbitration again with new arbitrators.
Yeah.
And then they did that, and then they found the exact same thing with people who weren't biased, but based off of the work that had been done before.
Yeah, so what happens when they overturn the appeal is that basically it goes back to the original arbitrators, who then have to qualify why it is that they decided what they decided, which you don't usually have to do in arbitration. But after going back and forth so many times, the court was basically like, yeah, we're never going to get a satisfactory answer. The real problem is you have people who are biased, and they cannot put aside their bias. Clearly, in all their responses, they were not able to put aside their bias.
Yeah.
But they did send it back, and the Nationals won again, but the number is way smaller. That's the important thing. It's $20 million a year instead of $60 million a year.
But it's still like $200 million in total, as opposed to, and this is the thing. If you don't think that other MLB owners are looking at this and thinking about how they're going to either get screwed or screw somebody by doing this, then you're completely wrong.
Yeah.
Famously, the thing that's sort of been like hanging over MLB the longest here has been the Athletics and their situation in the Bay Area. Because when they had originally negotiated like the media markets for Oakland and San Francisco, it was like West Bay is San Francisco, and East Bay and all the other surrounding regions are Oakland, but then San Francisco also gets south, as opposed to Oakland, who gets a little bit north. And the thing was like, well, we can't build another stadium in Alameda because nobody lives here.
Yeah.
It's too hard to build in Oakland because all the land is now super expensive because of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And we can't move the team to San Jose because that's the Giants media market.
Right.
And they're doing all this thing like, well, we found a new space where we could do a ballpark. And it's like Giants are like, no, absolutely not. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't build there. It's in Santa Clara. It doesn't count. You can't do it. And eventually, I think what this is going to come to is the A's are probably going to come up with some sort of agreement with the Giants where it's just like, hey, listen, we'll give you a certain amount of money every single year if you just let us be in San Jose.
Yeah.
And then they'll figure out some sort of way in court to overturn it and then never have to like pay the Giants that money.
Sure.
And I feel like the Giants would say to themselves like, no, we're not doing shit because
we've seen this.
We've seen how the Orioles got screwed here out of all this money that they thought they were getting in exchange for their media market.
Yeah.
And like DC is a way bigger media market than San Jose is. And they nobody wants to get screwed in this situation.
Yeah.
And it's setting up very dangerous precedents for how this sort of thing happens in the future.
If the Athletics moved to Oakland, moved to San Jose, did they become the San Jose Athletics?
I don't know. I mean, it's too far away from Oakland to
Be
really,
Oakland, right? Yeah, I mean, you can't. Maybe they should move to Vegas.
Well, there's an opening there.
And if you're in Oakland, if you live in Oakland, how much do you just hate sports in general after that? Both your teams leave to go to the same city. But
Well, I think you have to move to Vegas too then.
That's true. Yeah, it's like, all right, I'm going to move to Vegas.
Oakland's done.
I do
all
think
in Vegas now.
the bigger impact might be that some of the teams have really big market areas.
Yeah.
And that means that it's really limiting to expand or to move a team now.
Well, that was. I mean, like the argument for why the Nationals were supposed to get punished so badly over the 10-year period of this initial MASN agreement.
Yeah.
Was because the Orioles media market was so gargantuanly huge for a team in such a small market. So the Orioles went all the way up towards like, you know, like they meet up with the Phillies and Pirates markets in Pennsylvania. Like the Orioles are in York.
Yeah.
And then it went all the way south down towards like North Carolina, where it like met up with the Braves.
Yeah.
And then it goes all the way out towards like through West Virginia and Virginia up until it reached like Ohio and Kentucky.
Yeah.
Where it meets like the Indians and the Reds, because it's a big, huge amount of space that was just open for the Orioles.
P.S. The value of the market still way smaller than a lot of the big media markets, even though it's that big of an area.
I mean, just the Washington-Baltimore market is like the 4th biggest media market in the country. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if you're adding in like sort of tertiary things like, you know, a little bit of Pennsylvania and most of Virginia and a little bit of North Carolina and Kentucky and Ohio and stuff like that, you're talking about like one of the bigger media markets that you just split up and basically gave half to the Nationals.
Well, and I was going to say, I guess if you include, if you include Washington, that Baltimore, Washington, because Baltimore itself is not in the top 50 media markets.
No.
But
the two of them
Washington,
together,
yes,
the corridor.
And then because it's really tight in the Northeast, I guess, because there's teams in Pennsylvania, there's teams in New York.
I think New York
Boston.
actually works like at the same time. Because
there's crossover, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it's like specific. Like the Bronx and Manhattan is the Yankees.
Yeah,
Queens and Staten Island is the Mets.
But
or something.
Yes is not owned by either of the teams. I don't think.
Yes just got this is the part of the reason why I thought about it this week.
Okay,
and I wanted to talk about it. Yes just got purchased. Did you hear about this?
No.
So a couple years ago, in the NBA. The Clippers got sold to Steve Ballmer for $2 billion.
Wait, why did they get sold?
Listen to 30 for 30's podcast series on Donald Sterling, or go back to Cinco de Mayo 1 where we were talking about Donald Sterling for more.
That is how long ago that was. Yeah.
But yeah, so 5 years ago, the Clippers got sold for $2 billion. The biggest sale of a sports franchise before that was $600 million for the Bucks.
Right.
So there was all this thing of like, you know, like, well, now, you know, somewhere between 1.5 and up is the selling price for a franchise in a major sport now. Yeah,
in a major market, because it's the LA Clippers. Like,
yeah, but since then, a lot of other teams have been bought and sold for lots of money. You know, the Carolina Panthers were sold for a huge amount of money as well.
But not the highest offer, by the way. I learned that. Because you know who made the highest offer?
Diddy, right?
A consortium led by Sean Combs and I can't remember his real name. Jay-Z. Yeah. And for some reason, the owner of the Panthers chose a lower bid and sold it to somebody else.
But now Jay-Z's tied in with the NFL though, and he's like on the fast track for ownership somewhere.
Yeah. See, I had this argument on Friday. I don't think he is. I think that's their way to placate him and not give him a team. So, but yeah, it's they do sell for a lot, but again, they don't always sell for the most money people want to pay. No, and that's not really important though. My thought process is more about like, how much was the Panthers sold for? Like less than $1 billion.
No, it was way more than $1 billion.
Really?
Yeah, it was like $1.8 billion or something like that.
That's crazy.
But here's the thing: the Yankees, which has always sort of been seen as like the crown jewel of how much a team could conceivably be sold for.
Yeah.
They just sold just their media, just the television home of the Yankees, and they have like other shows on there that like fill out the schedule. But just sold for $2.19 billion the other day, and that is incredible and amazing and ridiculous.
But it was owned by the team itself, not by the Steinbrenners.
It was I think it was owned. All these things in a way are owned by some sort of trust that's associated with, and then creates a shell company that owns the Yankees.
Well,
the shell company only has like 3 members of its board, and they're all Steinbrenners. And it's like,
but no, so like Angelos owns MASN.
Yeah.
But Yes is owned 50% by the Mets, 50% by the Yankees.
No, just all Yankees.
Well, do the Mets have their own network?
Yeah.
Oh. So if
not their own. I think they're under like an NBC.
Oh, maybe that. But maybe
like
that was
NBC
their choice.
At New York or whatever is like the Mets home or something like
their
that.
Choice
but they
was
don't own the network.
They wanted to continue to sell their rights to someone else instead of create their network. Oh, that's fair enough. Okay.
And I don't think they've been able to afford to be able to launch a network for a couple of years.
Have you been to Flushing? It's not doing well.
No, well, they got what's the name of that guy who fucked a lot of people financially? Madoff. They got Madoff and bad.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, so now that we've taken the first half hour of the show, we should probably call it. So that was Sports Ball. Fortunately, not a lot else happening in the world. So,
Psych.
There's a hurricane bearing down on the east coast of the United States, specifically Florida. Video coming out of the Bahamas, and even just what's happening already on the East Coast is pretty amazing. One person who's not really been impacted by that, though?
Trump
Went golfing this week, and as people were leaving Florida in a panic, he, of course, shut down the airport at West Palm Beach so that he could land Air Force One, go golfing, and then later on, as people are hectically trying to, evacuate from the hurricane, he then flew out, shutting down traffic one more time. If there's not like a more tone deaf person in the world, I dare you to find someone who's more tone deaf. Honestly,
it's not even like the tone deafness that amazes me. It's the thought that like if I was really obsessed with golfing, and like there was a hurricane bearing down on Florida, and my going golfing could impact people's ability to leave town, I would just be like, find me some of the, like, I'll go golfing in Jersey this weekend or something like that.
Or
like,
how about the other golf course you own in the D.C. area where you could just drive to?
Yeah, just go golfing somewhere. Like, you don't have to go to Florida to golf. Like, it's not the only place where, if he was just like, I got a competitive highlight team that I'm involved in. Like, yeah, I get why you got to go to Miami.
South
for that.
Florida, only place you could go.
I can't. I just don't.
But I think that there's a level.
By the way, can you imagine Trump playing highlight? How much fun would that be?
It'd be kind of funny, actually. I think I would probably enjoy that. But I think that the bigger thing is, like, one, tone deafness is part of it. But also, there was a conversation in the White House that was just like, so let me ask you, honest question. Could we sneak in and out of South Florida this weekend? Right? I feel like we could. It's Labor Day and I want to go golfing. What? You don't like that?
Why can't I do it?
Yeah, I'm the president. I can do whatever I want. Let's fire up those jet engines and get rolling. And then he did. And it's like, you think I could get in for a quick 18? Like, you mean like fly into near a hurricane and fly back out? Yeah. I mean, we could.
Hey, I want to block a lot of roads during an emergency. Do you mind if I? Well, he is the president.
I was gonna say, well, sir, you understand that would block off a lot of roads. Yeah, but I mean, the emergency roads are pretty clear right now, right? Like, I feel like we'd have a pretty wide berth to get in there and get out.
I can't here. The thing that always never ceases to amaze me is that, like, just take any Trump story, replace the name with Obama, and think about all the people who would be like fucking incensed forever if Obama like flew into Florida to play golf during a hurricane.
By the way,
like they talked about Obama's tan suit. Yeah. Like, what was it? Like 5 years ago or something like that?
It was the 5th anniversary of the tan suit. Yes.
It was like 5 years ago. They couldn't stop fucking talking about him wearing a goddamn tan suit for 2.5 weeks. Can you imagine if he shut down like an airport during an emergency like this?
And in the way that
it would be handed to you just for a week, going like, he can't golf in New Jersey, he can't golf in Wyoming, he can't golf in Maryland. Like,
in the realm of there is a tweet for everything as well. Of course, Trump tweeted who knows how many dozens of times about, Obama out golfing again during a national crisis. You're flying into the national crisis to golf. You are out of your mind. Also, tan suit, but how about a 3-foot-long red tie? Are we not going to talk about the tie? How he doesn't know how to tie a tie? Oh, God. I love it and I hate it. At least we have something to talk about, right?
Yeah.
But good luck to everyone in Florida. I do love that. I don't love. It's funny. Not funny haha, but funny sad. That a bunch of people left Miami and went up into Georgia to get away from the hurricane, and then the hurricane like shifted right, and now it looks like it's gonna hit where they. It's a little funny. Where it's gonna hit where they actually ran to evacuate the hurricane. So I find that humorous. Humorous in like the universe doesn't give a shit about you kind of way.
Well, I mean, like, I feel like if you really wanted to, like, the people you're talking about, like, who like came to California during the hurricane.
Yes.
Like, those are the people who are thinking, like, there's no way it's going this way. There's no way. It just cuts across, like, Texas and Arizona and New Mexico on its way to L.A. So
meanwhile, you land in L.A., you're avoiding the hurricane, and the big one hits because they discovered a new fault. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is pretty rumbly.
Isn't it ironic
Could be a 7.0 sometime in, anytime between right now and 7,000 years from now. So good luck.
I like, by the way, that they found this fault. Again, like in a not fun.
Yes. Yeah.
I like that they found this fault. And then it's just like a media is just like, oh, yeah, that could be a problem. Like,
yeah. And then they found the end of it, and they were like, oh.
Like, how do we not know about this? But like,
so they did. They thought it was just extinct, though. They thought that it wasn't active. And then they're like, oh, we also thought that it kicked out into the ocean. It turns out it kicks out directly underneath the city. There's a small break, and here's another major fault. So if the first one moves, there's a chance it will actually just fracture all the way to the second one, which would drive the power of the earthquake under Newport, Long Beach, Newport, upwards through Inglewood, and basically into the heart of L.A., which I believe is how the movie Volcano starts.
Maybe, yeah.
So if you live or work around the Beverly Center, get ready, because we may have to knock that thing down to redirect the lava into the Los Angeles River and into the ocean.
Just imagine you're in Burbank, over Barham Boulevard, looking at the LA River, and then all of a sudden, just lava starts going down.
Yeah, you're just like, oh,
well, well then.
Things if something has happened.
Picked a wonderful day to go for a walk.
Yeah, but seriously though, be safe if you're in South Florida, or North Florida, or Georgia, apparently,
or Carolina, or Virginia, or Maryland. Or
yeah, the storm's getting stronger, not weaker, which is certainly has nothing to do with global warming, which is not a problem. It's something the liberal media is making up, so don't worry about that. But in other tragic news, wasn't this morning, right? It was yesterday.
I think so.
All my days are running together.
Yeah.
Yet another shooting in yet another place in America. I believe that we are now pushing towards the average of 2 per day in the United States right now.
Yeah.
This one in Odessa, Midlands, Texas. There were 21 people injured, including a 17-month-old baby.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 people have now been confirmed dead. And, I mean, I don't... Like, I want to talk about it.
There's nothing else that we can say that we haven't already said.
Yeah.
I think the what I think about a lot is immediately whenever I hear about a shooting in some place, I think about the people I know who live there.
Yeah.
We talked about this with El Paso last time. You know some people in El Paso.
I do, yeah.
I know some people who live in Odessa, and it's one of those things like you hear shooting in Odessa and you start thinking, are the people that I know they're dead? Like, did they happen to go to...
Especially this, like in public, where it's not like at a church or whatever.
Yeah, or like, there was a shooting not too long ago at like a farmer's market or something like that.
Yeah.
Anybody could conceivably be there kind of thing, Like, even if they're not going to buy produce or something, they might be buying a pretzel or something like that. Like I was walking by and I decided to get a pretzel and now you get shot.
Yeah.
And, obviously it works for people to come to grips with how shooting impacts other people. It helps, and not helps in like a good, it helps your understanding if you knew somebody who was there. I know a couple people who were at the Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
Like it helps me impact my ability to understand what they're going through or what it would have been like to lose them, you know? And that's the thing that always sort of like I try and stick with. If like, what if somebody I knew was in it, and then how would I feel? Because there are lots of people who lost somebody in the last, 24 hours, last month, last year, last couple of years over things like this. And how do you imagine they're feeling?
And you said, what can we say about it that hasn't been said? Well, Beto took up that mantle, and he said it's a fucking tragedy on CNN live. And here's the thing. I am over the let's pretend that presidential candidates don't curse. Let's pretend that they don't have emotions. I don't want a robot. We tried that. We got George W. Bush and his compassionate conservatism. But
I think that there is I don't want them to curse like they do all
the time. Yeah. Don't curse like me.
Like if you look at the Nixon tapes or something like that, like I don't need Nixon like out in front of like the gaggle, the press gaggle, and just being like, "You fucking cunts." Like he was
bit much.
Recorded White House tapes.
And I mean, what we know about Nixon, don't need him dropping some of those racial epithets. In front of the press pool either. But like, here's the thing: I dig that Beto's basically. Honestly, I think part of him is just like, I'm not going to win, so I'm going to be the guy who makes a splash. By the way, Beto, go home and run for fucking Senate. Because you know how you get a gun bill passed? Get more Democrats in the Senate. That'll certainly help. Being the president doesn't do any good if you still have 51 Republican senators, because you'll never get a fucking bill. Although, I mean, I guess we could do a state of emergency.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the way that we as in the Democrats, the royal end up getting that through.
And setting good precedents with like, do something illegal? That's all right. I'll pardon you. It's fine. Because the president, once again this week, said that he would pardon people who broke the law. Which listen, Nixon's a bold man. Ford, bold as well. Neither of them actually said, I'll pardon you if you are going to commit crimes. They did, in fact, pardon people who committed crimes. But they didn't actually say it.
It was a lot of wink, wink, nod, nod. Like, listen, if you help me out with this one, then I'll look out for you if anything comes back, you know?
Trump's really got that whole, you said the quiet part out loud problem on many topics. But, I mean, back to Beto, though. He's becoming almost shticky at this point for me, where I'm like, all right, I get it. You're the guy who curses, you jump on tables. Great. I want a president who is kind of like that, but I don't want the guy who thinks he can become president by doing that. And I think that's the difference.
You know what I think the difference is that the candidate who I would like to say, like, shit's fucked up right now would say it in a more... How do I put this exactly? Like, if something's really wrong, and you're driven to the point where you're telling the media shit's fucked up, I would hope to see you be a little bit more raised about it.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to do this every single fucking day. If I was president, I'm not going to allow these shootings to continue to happen. I'm going to do what I have to do every single day to help eliminate them along the way. He would be a little bit more animated about it. His problem is he's just like, well, shit's fucked up. And then talking points. And he's just like, I think that we need to have serious conversations with our other elected officials about what we can do in this said situation. It's like, no. You're using the cursing as a manner for somebody to write an article like, oh, Beto just cursed.
Oh,
cursed
he
on
just
CNN.
said that word. Oh, yeah.
Holy shit, he just cursed on a CNN. But everything that follows it isn't him it's the type of thing, like, I imagine if Obama cursed. If I heard Obama curse on live TV, then it would be followed by, a minute of him just steadily streaming on whatever topic got him
the
to that point.
The emotional thing, though, not the, let me hit the 4 talking points I gotta say after that.
Yeah, it would be like talking points be damned after you've laid the curse. You're just like, all right, I've already stepped in it, so I might as well go whole hog on this one. I'm fine with it. I don't care if people curse. It doesn't bother me. I think that's a change in our culture in general, is that people are less bothered by that sort of thing. But I would rather it be followed up by he seems to care about the issue, but he doesn't ever seem to get passionate about it, that's the problem. I think that's where he needs to improve if he's going to continue cursing.
I don't mean to be on my phone. I'm looking for a tweet that I saw from Elizabeth Warren that was basically exactly what you were describing. She may have deleted it. That may actually be what happened.
They also tweet 170 times a day. All
they
these
really
candidates,
do.
Yeah. Because they'll put out a new tweet for help me North Carolina raise some money for your primary in 10 months.
It looks like it might have been deleted. I'm more than a week ago now, and I know it was just in the past couple of days. But it was that thing where I feel like, and I don't imagine she's in control of her social media, but I think that it's got to be the thing where if she's like, give me the phone.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And she's like, dig it, and she types out the thing and goes. But it was this very emotional response, and I don't think it was to the shooting. I want to say it was to Dorian. It might have been about the president going and golfing during the crisis. But it was just a 3-tweet, reply to my own.
Yeah, thread.
And it was not on talking points whatsoever. It was not about waste. It was not about corporate accountability. It was not about any of that stuff. It was like, this is just irresponsible. You're the leader of the free world. And how can you say that a woman is not capable of that job when this is how you act and you're a man?
You know, and that's very true, because I think Elizabeth Warren is the person that I would like to hear this from the most. And she does it from time to time. Like during the last debate, she did the whole, I don't understand why people go through all the effort of running for president, of setting up the campaign and doing this to say we're not going to do anything once we're elected, or talk about all the things we won't be able to do. Like that was her getting like really amped about stuff. And I imagine that if you hit her with some sort of like, you know, like, well, you know, then healthcare isn't a basic human right, and she would just be like, fuck that. Here is why.
Let me explain to you why it should be a basic human right.
Let me put a little respect on it for you.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, that the fact that it's gone now makes me think that maybe they were just like, all right, so we need to get you back on talking points. Liz, I know you woke up, you feel a little better about it today. Great. Let's delete those tweets. And or as soon as she handed it back to her social media person, like the manager looked over and was just like, just delete that shit. Rob already got it. Rob already saw it and liked it. It's a problem for the campaign at this point.
Oh, no. When the first like is Rob, I know we've gone too far.
It's going to be a problem. The like before this was about guillotines. We can't have that. Anyway, so going a little bit more lighthearted, I guess, as we kind of wrap up the news section. I saw earlier this week, that a momentous anniversary is upon us. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how, if you guys have been following us for 5 years, you'll know that Corey is a huge fan of Rachel Lee Cook. Yep. For reasons that escape me generally, on the day to day.
Because she's talented and cute.
One of those things used to be true. The other one, I can't say for sure. Nonetheless, her breakout role, was 1999's She's All That. Yep. And that movie is now 20 years old as of this week. Yeah. And it made me think of a
lot of undercover stars in that one, too.
Yeah, Freddie Prinze Jr.
Well, I mean, Freddie Prinze was like the lead guy, but I'm saying like Paul Walker was in that as like a secondary role, and so was Dooley Hill. And
True. Oh, my God. Yeah, you're right.
And I think there was a couple female members of that cast, too, who were like...
They were just so overshadowed by her talent and beauty that Corey can't remember who they are. Yeah. So it reminded me of an old segment that we used to do. Do you remember that old segment, Corey?
Movies old enough to fuck.
And I was thinking we should maybe get back to that. That was a lot of fun. When Corey would just go ranting about a movie that had turned 18 or 19 or 20, and he just wanted everyone to remember. I think the last one we did was the Late Night Wars.
I think, Late Show.
Late Show. That's it. Yeah.
I think that part of the reason why this segment, number one, and it was never overwhelmingly popular. And then I think it also ran into like sort of a Me Too thing of like maybe we shouldn't be talking about celebrating things that have become old enough to have sex with. But like it always just seemed like as a funny joke to explain a movie that was like roughly 20 years old. Yeah, yeah. I stand by the fact that I think that it's worth every once in a while looking back on a movie that was like 20 years ago, and you can sort of say like, oh, nobody gave it any due at the time, but now look at it.
Yeah, it's a classic now.
And I don't know if it's a classic. I don't know if She's All That's a classic. It's a type of movie that doesn't really get made anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't imagine that it works that well with like the changes in technology over the last 20 years. Like,
I bet it looks horrible.
It would be way harder to like make a modern day version of this movie.
Yeah.
With phones and internet and Facebook and everything like that.
Well, I mean, also one, it looks horrible, so any upgrade would be great on the actual video. Two, a lot of the problems in the plot, much like everything in Seinfeld, would be solved by technology today. So there's that. And three, I remember Paul Walker being somewhat racist and or xenophobic in that movie, or just misogynist, one or the other.
I think it was misogynist.
I just remember like as I'm thinking about the movie, I'm like, I don't think we would like him today as his role in that movie.
I think he was just sort of like that jockey, women are disposable kind of guy.
Yeah.
So he had like a lot of like throwaway lines of just like, you know, like, well, if you don't like that girlfriend, go get another one or something like that, you know, and like,
why don't you just hit it on prom night and never call her again?
Yeah. Just little things that like wouldn't work the same way today. Oh, and I mean, like you know, it's what's interesting about that movie too is it was sort of like the first makeup has gotten a lot better in the last 20 years too.
Yeah.
Because there was a way you could do this movie today where it wouldn't be so obvious that Rachel Lee Cook was good looking.
Uglier up a little bit before. A little more than just glasses and a ponytail.
That's... You start thinking about like classically beautiful people who've played ugly in the years since. Like, Charlize Theron in Monster, for instance.
Oh,
like,
man, yeah.
You would look at her in that role and say, like, what kind of grotesque, trailer park woman is this? And then you look at her on a red carpet and you're just like, oh my God.
I can't believe it's the same woman.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There was an aspect of She's All That where like it was clear that they made fun of it in like Not Another Teen Movie and stuff like that, where it's just like this beautiful woman just puts down her hair and takes off her glasses. It's just like, look at her.
There you go. Done.
Holy shit! I never noticed. Like,
I will say though,
she can't be good looking. She has paint on her overalls.
that is. I want to watch. See, I want to watch Not Another Teen Movie more than I do She's All That. Actually, let's just wrap up all of those in one big review.
I want to watch one and then the other. Just like, watch She's All That and then Not Another Teen Movie.
I will say one other cute thing that happened this week was
classic line from Not Another Teen Movie. It's not the size of the hammer; it's the nail you're throwing it at.
Dude, that guy is like a well-respected actor now too, right? Damn, what is his name? He's always like that guy. Oh, I know that guy. That's the guy from whatever.
And Chris Evans was in Not Another Teen Movie.
Shit, he was.
Yeah.
As the
jock
star?
quarterback, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he came out with you remember in Varsity Blues where the woman came out in the whipped cream bikini, and then he came out in the like whipped cream Speedo essentially.
That's right, yeah.
With the banana on the other side.
I almost watched a movie called Sunshine, and I saw it, and I'm like, I feel like I've watched this, so I watched the preview on HBO, and then 20 seconds into the minute-long trailer, Chris Evans pops up, and I'm like, whoa, you must really regret this movie. This is like a really bad sci-fi movie, but I think he probably regrets Not Another Teen Movie.
I don't know. I think that's pretty funny. I think it holds up. I mean, it's weird how none of these movies seem to hold up as well watching them in a 2019 microscope, but it's kind of like Dave Chappelle. If you could just turn yourself off from the fact that this is going to be controversial, it's pretty funny.
And I think satire might be the exception because it's intentionally satire, and it's so it's already over the top.
And a lot of the satire is specific to a certain thing. I remember in Not Another Teen Movie, they were making fun of the bag blowing in the wind of American Beauty and stuff like that. It's that's not a reference that holds out forever.
No.
20 years later, if I showed some teenager that movie, they wouldn't get what the fuck that was.
Yeah. Did they just spend 30 seconds on a bag blowing? I'm the original was longer.
In 2001, it made a lot of fucking sense to have that scene. That's all I'm saying.
This week, another thing happened. I had a cutesy conversation with some millennials about how Euphoria was a great show, just a little over the top because kids never have parties like that, or they don't have that lifestyle. And I was like, first of all, at least 15 things from Euphoria I've experienced in my own life. Yeah. I had lived that life before. So maybe it's just you have a boring childhood. I don't know. Or, these things are cyclical, right?
I remember Roberto turning to me at one point during Euphoria and going is this really what high school's like? And Rachel and I are looking at each other yeah.
Yep.
Most of these things happened when I was in high school, and that was fucking 20 years ago.
So I think the thing though is it's cyclical, right? So it happened for us, and then the people who are midway between us and current high schoolers.
There's other things. There's things that just don't translate the same. I never really knew a trans kid. Growing up.
No.
That just was not
but the
something
gay kids
that people
would
do.
Gay kids were coming out right when we were in high school. It was okay to be gay in high school.
Yeah, and it's not that there weren't kids who were interested in transitioning at the time. Yeah. It was just that it was a death sentence more or less to publicly put yourself out there like that.
And I'll say, so similar to that, kids.
And I know a lot of people felt that way where they're just I can't do this thing because nobody's going to be able to understand what I'm going through.
Someone who is 7 years older than us was not having a lot of sex in high school because they were literally just coming out of the AIDS epidemic. And it was just no, it's not this free love thing. But then 7 years later, we're in high school. Specifically, I'm in high school. And it's I'm responsible and I'm using condoms pretty often, but like, sometimes I forget. And it's like, you're going to be fine. But then I think there was like a big push again in high schools. Like, kids are forgetting. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
And then like kids who are a little younger between us and current high schoolers are back to the like, no, it was always safe. It was always like, think twice before you do anything, blah, blah, blah. And then kids now, and not kids, like college, people who are in college are just out of it. Their high school experience was very much like free love, kind of like how it was when we were in high school. It doesn't matter where you are, the backseat of a car, under a foosball table, anywhere is totally okay.
I mean, like, I feel like there's, obviously, what I keep thinking about when I'm watching Euphoria, and tell me if you're in the same place, is My So-Called Life.
Okay, yeah.
Because, like, that had a lot of, like, obviously the drama was, like, fast-paced, and, like, there were 5 things that always happened during each episode.
Yeah.
Sort of the same way Euphoria is. But there was also a aspect of where, like, you're... like, it's groundbreaking in the way that, like, that was the first gay character that a lot of people saw on TV. And, like, where he was able to explain himself, like, and he wasn't, like, a caricature...
Right.
Like, he obviously had, like, things that insinuated to the audience that he was gay. He was a little bit more flamboyant.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of a lisp, but sort of things to just sort of, like, ease people into the fact that they knew he was gay without having to, like, know it ahead of time.
Who played the gay character on My So-Called Life?
Oh, God.
He's really gay, though, right?
Yes.
I feel like he was just playing himself. I was going to say, I think, if I remember correctly, he's just doing a little bit bigger version of himself.
He was in he's just not that into you as well.
Yes.
I can't remember his name. Shit.
Damn.
I'm getting it. Hold on. Don't worry.
You're looking it up. While you look it up, yes. My So-Called Life. For those of you who
Wilson Cruz.
Let me see his face. Do you have a picture of him?
Hold on a second.
Oi, Kirkin out. And we're switching the surface. The surface is coming. Here we go. Yes. Okay, now we're gonna go Scroll down. Yes, there we go. And we're
sucks when
I
have the keyboard turned off.
Wilson Cruz. I'm gonna scoot over.
Ricky Vasquez.
Yeah. So he is gay in real life, and I feel like that character was just basically him. So like it's
I mean, I think that it was really important for the people who made this show to say at the time that we had a gay person playing the character, because so often in Hollywood at that time. There were a ton of amazing gay actors who basically had to stay in the closet and act straight in order to get roles, because as soon as they came out, it was just like, well, fuck you. Like, nobody remembers, like, at the time when Ellen came out on her show, where it felt like her entire career was over, and she was going to be like
her show.
Even in Democratic Hollywood, there was just like this feeling of just like, oh my God, it's done for her. She's never going to be able to work again. Like,
and then she disappeared for a while. And then did comedy, and then they were like, hey, you're really funny. We should put you on daytime TV. Yeah. And now America fucking loves her.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
But, I mean, I think that's the same sort of thing that they did with the character in Euphoria, where they're just like, there's no point in having a quote-unquote straight actor play a trans member. Like, we just need to get the best trans actor we can. And I'm sure there's just like... there probably isn't high numbers of trans actors, but I imagine that the top end of the pool of like the talent pool is incredible.
Oh,
and
just like
they're
other
just
pool.
Sitting there, like they're not. Like that's the thing. Like I was talking to Roberto too about like casting of like Latino actors and stuff like that. And it's just like we kept making the joke of just like the executive just going like, "Well, Michael Pena, is he available? Can we put Michael Pena in this thing?
We need a Hispanic like, Pena.
No, we need like a 20-year-old. He can't play 20. Can't get Michael Pena to play 20.
I mean, to be fair, I think he's played everything from like a teenager to a 40-year-old in his 20s. So like it's just like it's fine, whatever.
It's just like the one actor who plays like every single version of like a bad Mexican.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Has like the teardrop tattoo and he does like the hey Holmes like in half the roles and then half the times it's like
he wasn't Machete. That's Danny Trejo.
No, not Danny Trejo. There's another one.
Oh no, I said Machete.
Oh yeah,
he played Machete.
Yeah. Anyway, should we wrap up in the Baltimore corner?
Yes,
just super quick.
So before we go here, let's take a trip on down to the Baltimore corner, where you get the straight dope. And much like any corner in Baltimore, there's somebody yapping in the background while you're trying to do things. Oh. And much like Baltimore, when you yell, everything gets quiet. So Baltimore. A couple of big stories out. Corey, would you be surprised if I told you the two big stories of the week involve the Baltimore Police Department?
No. If not on this podcast.
If some of you guys aren't on Twitter, you may not have seen the scariest and most hilarious video to ever get made, which was a person standing on... I couldn't even identify the corner if I wanted to.
It looked like MLK and like Calvert or something like that. Like,
but no, Calvert and MLK. That would be like way. I see. You mean like Lombard? What are the crossing streets? What are the cross streets? See, I think it was further down. They were making a left towards the hospital. That's what I thought.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I think when they came up into that intersection, they were making.
It was
a left
hard
towards
to.
the
I couldn't
hospital.
see signs, so it was hard to make the judgment. But it looked like the University of Maryland Biopark was in the background,
which is
MLK. Is why I was saying MLK.
But if you make a left,
and then like you're looking north on MLK, and you're not quite Lombard. You're like a couple blocks
Fayette?
up. Like maybe Fayette or like Baltimore Street or something like that.
Maybe.
But it didn't look... I couldn't identify it like once they turned into the street. That was the other problem.
He may have actually been on the corner of Baltimore Street, ironically.
Maybe.
Nonetheless. It's funny because the guy shooting it, his reaction is very much 2019, where it's like, I'm going to record this, and then stuff starts going crazy, and he flees for his life, but does not stop recording and make sure that the camera is at an angle that can get good video. But so a guy pulls in and gets like boxed in a little bit by the police, and two policemen step out of the car to approach the vehicle, and he leans out the door and shoots at both of them, and then jumps the divider and makes a left in front of them. And it sounds like a lot of shots. And I was like, you know what? There's an echo.
Sounds like more than 100 shots.
There's an echo. It could have been less than I thought. Nope. It's like 109 shots that they did. And they did not, as far as I know, kill him with bullets.
What's really interesting to me about that whole video too is that like how it like all of a sudden escalates out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because at first it's just sort of like the person recording is just like, oh shit, gunfire, and he like gets behind a car a little bit, like just sort of like gets puts his body behind the car, and it's just sort of like pop 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 pop, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere it's like it's like the grand finale of a fireworks.
Yeah.
Pop, 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 pop. It's like a sustained like 20 seconds, and he's like, oh shit,
oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. But still records all the way through. You have to give him some
You
love
the real
for that.
MVP.
Man. Nonetheless, so apparently earlier in the week, someone stepped up to a Baltimore police cruiser and shot through the window, and then started a chase, which the Baltimore commander called off because it was reaching speeds of 90 miles an hour on not 40. It is 40, but it's 40 at the further down where it becomes a residential road again. Shit.
Pulaski.
Like Pulaski Highway, yeah. So he called it off because he was like, it's too dangerous to be doing 90 in this neighborhood. And, of course, the FOP, always looking out for the people of Baltimore and their safety, said, this is bullshit. Our cops should be allowed to chase someone down and to enact justice on them when they shoot at us. But then the car was spotted 2 days later, and that's when this shootout occurred. They tried to stop him, and he fired at police officers and then made a left, and a lot of rounds were fired. Again, I don't think that they killed the guy, which says something about the Baltimore Police Department, I think. But can we get the Baltimore Police Department to go viral for something good? That would be lovely. Well,
the problem is anytime they go even half viral for anything good, it's immediately stomped out. It's just like you get one of those things where you get like a cop playing basketball with some kids.
Oh, yeah.
And then like, as soon as it reaches like 20,000 views or something like that, like you look through the comments and it's just like, this is the same officer who murdered my son or some shit, like, and then the whole thing just fucking turns. And there's no good way of portraying like that. That's the problem when you reach a certain level of notoriety, like the Baltimore Police Department has. There's no way that you can just like act like
pull out one good thing. If you remember the Dover
Listen,
police.
Roman Polanski made a lot of good movies.
The Dover police had that problem when the guy went viral doing the Taylor Swift video.
Yeah.
And then it come to find out he was one of the officers on scene when the guy like punted a surrendering suspect's head.
Yeah.
And it was like, and as you notice, he doesn't step in to do anything. He allows the officer to kick him not once, but then to turn him over and kick him again in the side.
Yeah.
And once that officer's on top of him, then he steps in to put cuffs on him. And this is going to be the same officer you see here in this Taylor Swift viral video. So thanks, Officer Jerk Off. Thank you for helping the people so much. But, not to be outdone, another member of Baltimore's Finest said, you know what? That's not dumb enough. Shooting at somebody 109 times on a public street, not enough. I am going to
pull a McNulty.
Let's say pull a McNulty. That's the example I thought of. Now, I can't say for sure that this officer was on duty or off duty.
Or sober or drunk.
We can't say for sure whether he was sober or drunk. I just think it's odd that while driving through Southwest in a police cruiser, apparently at high speed, someone dressed in their street clothes would lose control of the car and roll it in a single car accident.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know what pulling a McNulty is, you should watch season 1 of The Wire. Maybe season 2.
It was a cold open on The Wire. I don't remember what episode it was, but it started with McNulty leaving the bar drunk.
Telling the bartender he was fine to drive.
He had a ride.
Yeah.
Somebody was coming to give him a ride home.
Yeah.
So you can give me my keys back because somebody else is driving my car. I swear to God, I'm not driving.
Yeah. I'm a cop. You can trust me.
And then does some wide turn and scuffs up the side of his car and then sees if he can do it again.
Yeah.
And that was basically the cold open where he crashes his car.
And maybe that's how that started until the guy went a little too fast and just rolled it over instead. Anyway, so the witnesses say the guy was in plain clothes. So who knows if he's on duty or undercover because knockers are still a thing in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Don't let them tell you they're not. But he rolled the car, damaging, $150,000 worth of police equipment. And may or may not have been drunk. Now, you might remember that in weeks past, Baltimore police have been caught sleeping in their cars. They've been caught eating in their cars.
Using their cars to transfer drugs to Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah, that was the GTTF. That's true. They did that too. And to, just hold on to money and drugs that they seize without reporting from drug dealers.
Yep.
So, it's just yet another shining moment in the city of Baltimore, which has now surpassed 1 murder per day this year, I think, right?
Yeah. We're going to clear 300 by a healthy margin, I think.
344 was the
high a couple years ago.
And I still think we're going to break that. A cold winter might put a snap on it. But if we have a nice warm winter, good luck. It's going to be not great in Baltimore City. So, somebody brought up to me. Did you watch RoboCop when you were a kid?
Freeze, dirtbag.
Yes, it clearly did. Baltimore in real life is turning into a bit of the future city that RoboCop is brought into, where it's just like, listen, there's cops. They don't really do anything. They're kind of criminals themselves. They don't stop other criminals unless they are encroaching on their own criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
And it's basically just a shit show, Machiavellian shit show. And that is kind of what Baltimore's turning into right now. Last night, 4 people were shot in a quadruple shooting. 1 male, 1 female survived. A male was marked deceased. And then someone brought a child into the emergency room and had no idea how they were injured with a gunshot wound. And turns out the child may or may not have been riding in the car of the shooter. And when they returned fire on him, that the child was struck. So then you're just like, what kind of world where you're like, yo, is that him? All right, slow down real quick. Like, yo, the baby's in the backseat. Like, all right, yo, take this little gun.
Yo, baby.
Take this little gun. Point that out. You see that dude in a red shirt? You're just going to point that right at him. As we go by, I want you to pull it as many times as you can. Like, it's literally, like, I don't know what else can be done, but maybe a few more cops outside the White Owl. That might help.
Yeah.
Although probably not. Firing everybody. Starting over.
I still don't see how this situation just gets amended. Like, the problem is that, like, there's so many things in writing. Like, You remember when the auto industry went down and you found out that like there were people who were being paid by GM like, $98,000 a year to like sleep in an office all day.
Yeah.
And it's like they couldn't be fired because of the union restrictions that they had.
Yeah.
And if you fired them, then you had to pay them 150% of their salary for 10 years. And it didn't make sense. It's just like, just let Roger sleep in the office. And like everyone, like at the end of it, like everyone just went like, like, God, this is why the auto industry is so bad. They can't, like they're been overrun by their union.
Yep.
And it's not that it was the union's fault. It was just the fact that like, at a certain point, that negotiations had gone in the union's favor so many times that there wasn't going back on it at that point.
And they weren't worried about the workers who might come into the union anymore. They were protecting the bad
the ones
workers
who were there,
who were inside already, which is a great metaphor for the Baltimore Police Department.
Yeah, but I mean, like eventually, it just came to the point where, like when the auto industry needed to be bailed out and all these stories came to the front, then public pressure got to the point where it's just like, listen, we got to fucking change something. I don't think anybody... the story that people aren't talking about with Baltimore crime is the FOP.
Yeah.
And then like the negotiations that happen between them and the city, because that makes all the difference in the world with how these things are able to go when there's a situation, like...
By the way, did you see the FOP got a new spokesperson?
No.
It's a young, attractive white woman.
No.
So apparently, Baltimore police are watching Fox News because they are picking up on a few
Is it Dana
things.
Loesch?
I don't think it's Dana Loesch. Although, if you were going to get somebody who I already hate to rep an organization that I already hate, Dana Loesch would be your go-to.
Good
so,
pick.
Not bad. But we'll have future news about the downfall of Western civilization at another time. But for now, that's enough of the Baltimore Corner.
Where you get the straight dope. All right.
We need to get music that goes by that. Maybe just the Price is Right losing music. Wow. Yeah, I think that's the perfect sound effect for the Baltimore Corner. Some dude at 6 o'clock in the morning shouting, "I got them yellow caps! I got them yellow caps!"
Got them WMDs.
Yes. Anyway, so nothing like stumbling into the finish line.
Well, I don't even have a way to... You threw me all off there. I don't even know what to say.
How about them yellow caps? Anybody got some yellow caps?
Oh, you want to get some yellow caps? You know where you can go?
Where's that?
OTheAnthem.com, OTheAnthem.com. The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. By
just
the way,
to
I'm
clarify,
not going to tell you what yellow caps are. That's not drugs, though. I'll tell you that for sure.
If you know what they are already, you cannot get those at OTheAnthem.com. Just so it's clear, those are not available. Blue stripes? No.
It ain't OTheAnthem.silkroad.com, all right?
Although, I mean, that'd be kind of lucrative. Anyway, wait, that was
There's just like a little hidden thing that you can click on the website. It just takes you to the Silk Road.
Anyway, go ahead. Yes.
You can find more of my stuff at CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, at LegendsUB5 on Twitter, Instagram. Just had a review for Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. It went exactly the way you'd think it would, but probably worth listening to if you're in for that sort of thing. And yeah, we got to see a movie here at some point. I wanted to see one this week. It just the week sort of got away from us. So
yeah,
I might go just catch an early flick and try and make something.
I'm down this week anytime you want.
Okay.
I mean, not tomorrow because I want to get drunk tomorrow, but otherwise, anytime.
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was joking last week about doing an Everyman review because of Corey's review of what was the first one that set me off?
Oh, shit.
It's what we saw at the Alamo.
Yeah. Oh, Scary Stories to Tell.
Scary Stories.
Yeah.
That made me want to do my own reviews. Then I heard the Hobbs and Shaw review. An Everyman movie review will be coming this week. I promise you. I was joking the first time. This time, I am not joking. I am doing this.
It was set off.
I have a theme song. I already know the format. They're going to be very short and succinct and 15 or so minutes long. And it'll be for everyone who's not pretentious. That's what you'll be able to
every episode will start with this bitch, Corey Baker.
No, I mean, to be fair, it's not going to be about your reviews. It's just going to be, hey, here's an honest review from somebody who likes to go to the movies and isn't like a self-flagellating person who hates themselves and the media for which they want to work in on a regular basis.
I'm just saying, at some point we get to these situations. We talked about like the union members in the car auto industry. We talk about how the FOP is out of control. All I'm saying is that the allowing Fast and the Furious to be your new level of acceptable baseline is like letting some guy sleep in the office for $97,000 a year.
I see. You can find more of me
sets you off wrong
at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com where you can find links to my political blog. My new YouTube series, Every Man Movie Reviews, which will be available this week on YouTube. And of course the books, which are available on Amazon.
Barron's Books.
And the new book, Foe, will be out on time in September. As soon as Corey prints out the rest of the 400 pages that apparently the book comes out to. Got to check that formatting.
I had one ream of paper, and I was just like, oh, this will be enough to print out everything I need to print out.
Why didn't you check the size and the number of pages?
Because in the past, I didn't like doing back-to-back because then it bleeds through.
Yeah.
So I like to have like the single-sided pages, but then I didn't realize until it started printing out that it was like
real big. Yeah,
I could have resized it.
I write bigger on the page and I write in book mode, so it gives me a left page and a right page, so it's formatted.
I like it though because it gives me room in the margins to write like longer notes. But
so it ended up being a lot of pages. But the actual book that you're going to buy will not be 400 pages. It will be a tight 220 or so pages. So, but a riveting read. So you're not going to want to miss that. Coming in September. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good, but as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
I just noticed that the trees that are green on my shirt are going through.
You can see the background?
Yeah. It's just lightly, you can see a little city going through the trees sometimes. It's funny.
Well, much like the real Baltimore corner, you might have some gunshot wounds. I can't say for sure.
See ya.